Okay, so today's topic is all about prospecting on Twitter and how to best leverage the platform and specifically its analytics aspect, and how do you mine that for good information about your audience? How do you go out and make some new connections through some ways maybe you hadn't thought about on Twitter apart from just tweeting? So I know these were kind of the two pillars that we talked about last week, but again, focusing here on creating this conversation. How do you best engage your audience and best engage those relationships that you've got? So the first thing we're going to take a look at is Twitter analytics. How do you access Twitter analytics? If you have more than, I don't, Twitter hasn't advertised like a set cutoff. If you have less than probably 50 followers, you may not have access to this yet because you don't have enough data. But once you do kind of cross this invisible threshold, I'm sorry, I don't know what it is, but there's several ways to find the analytics platform. First of all, when you're on your desktop, you can click on the icon that's you at the top right, and there's a number of things in the drop down there. So analytics is one of those. If you don't see that, another thing that you can try is going ahead and logging into Twitter and then just type analytics.twitter.com. And since you're already logged in, just see what comes up for you. What I'm going to show you today is not fully accessible on mobile. There are aspects of Twitter analytics that are accessible on mobile, but it's on a tweet by tweet basis. You can't get this big picture kind of global stuff that you can with the desktop. But what the analytics platform provides for you is one of the most helpful things, I think, is month by month, it will give you a quick snapshot of what has happened on the platform that month. And so it'll track your top performing tweet. It'll track your top follower, meaning your newest follower that has the biggest follower count on their end. Your top mention, so when you get somebody else shouting out to you, and then your top media tweet, and it'll give you a summary of everything that's happened on the month, comparing it to other months. So let's go over here and hop to Twitter. So I'm already logged into Twitter, and I'm currently looking at my notifications, but I'm going to go ahead and go to the profile here. And again, lots of things we can do in this menu, but we're going to click on analytics, which is going to launch it in a separate tab, and that brings us to our home screen. So what we're looking at here is a 28-day summary is this first line, and they compare and contrast that with the previous 28 days. So quantity of messages you've sent out, tweet impressions. So impressions is Twitter's way of counting eyeballs on your content. So a lot of messages get read that don't get engaged with, that don't get retweeted or liked. And so this is Twitter's best guess as to how many people have actually laid eyes on your tweet based on how many people have scrolled past it. Profile visits. This is something we've mentioned before, but this is a really great thing to notice because, again, outside of whether or not people follow you, they still will visit your profile and see what you're about. And so, again, your profile can be found just by going home and then hitting your name here. And this is the profile screen when people take a look at this. And that's why it's so important to have good looking images, have a bio line, put your website here, have it filled out so that when people do visit, and clearly they do, they'll get some good information about you. Mentions, again, is when somebody puts your Twitter handle in a tweet, and that's considered a mention. So they're specifically talking to you. And then your follower growth. And this is based on the last 28 days. We've picked up another 60. So then you can see how this breaks this out month by month. So here's February. We're Twitter analytics never counts the day you're on. It always sums it through the previous 24-hour cycle. So 14 days into February, top tweet, top follower from the last 14 days, and they base that on how many followers that account has. So this is a UK Craft Cider Subscription Club. I think I should sign up. And then you have your top mention, and then your top media tweet, which means a tweet that included a pic or a video or something. And then your summary here, broken down month by month. So then you can scroll down and see previous months. And this goes back, I want to say they launched this for all users. This has been available for big brands for years, but they launched this for free to all users probably a year and a half ago. So if you scroll back far enough, it'll just stop at some point, and that's because they weren't keeping records for everybody. Now, the next thing that you can find in the Analytics tab, we're going to switch buttons here. We're going to go to Tweets. And so this actually tells you every single thing that's happened to every single tweet over whatever time period you want. And you can adjust that month by month or week by week, however you want, up to 3 months at a time. It won't give you more than 90 days at once. So impressions, remember, it's just eyeballs on the content day by day. It'll tell you organic impressions, and then we're not paying to boost anything through this Twitter handle, but if you were paying, that would have that separately. And then you can see for every single tweet, every single thing that happens to it. Now, one thing to point out here, got to brag a little bit, is this engagement rate. Your engagement rate is the way they calculate that is the amount of tweets that get sent out. Of course, the percentage of those tweets that something happens to them. Did they get a like? Did they get? Did you pick up a new follower because of that tweet? Did you, did it get retweeted? Did it get responded to? So all of those things are considered engagements, and you'll see that in this middle column here. Impressions, remember, is just sheer readership, and so this is your engagement rate. The average engagement rate on Twitter is 0.1%. Okay, 0.1%, because 99.9% of the activity on Twitter is simply reading and consumption. People get on, they check their home feed, or they check a list, or they search for a topic, they consume, they read, they hop off. They don't follow you, they don't like your stuff, they don't retweet your stuff. And so to have an engagement rate of 2.1% is pretty strong. The highest I've ever seen is 4%, and that is for the huge brand that we run, Match.com. So don't think you're going to get, this is not like Facebook. You are not going to be running an engagement rate of 40% or something crazy like that. It doesn't happen on the platform. And then you can see post by post, tweet by tweet, what your engagement rate is per tweet. Okay, and most of them are hanging around this because, again, not everything gets engaged with. But then it'll tell you your link clicks. So this is a good thing to take note of, especially if Soundboard is tweeting for you and we're tweeting out links to your specific Juice Plus site frequently. Now remember, sometimes we do tweet out articles and we don't want to be overly promotional. But here's just a quick glance at how many click-throughs you've gotten. And of course, your retweets, your likes, and your replies. So if somebody responds. But this is, I like to look at it this view because I can quickly peruse my list here and just by impressions see what kind of worked the best. Now I also am a data nerd, so if you want to export your data, you will get a beautiful spreadsheet that includes every single tweet, every single thing that happened to it, when it happened to it, and I use that to easily, I'll pull the sheet and I'll sort it by impressions or sort it by engagements, and that will put my top tweets at the top of the list instead of scrolling through this whole thing. And then I can tell, of my top 10 tweets, what's my trend line, what topics, what themes hit the best. And so we'll certainly work to revisit those themes, in the coming days, because that's what worked really well. So very good information here to be gleaned from what's working. So now we want to think about our audience. Again, we visited this point last week, but want to do it here. Audience is, you got to know who these people are and what they care about. So we want to leverage this audience information. There's so much that can be gotten here, but before we visit it, again, I want you to remember that based on the amount of data that you have flowing through your account, you may or may not see all these tabs yet. So here's another incentive to get out there, grow your account by following other people, trying to get followed back, and just being active on the platform. So we have this audiences button, and what this is going to bring up is a lot of great data. So this is, I don't even know how many followers I have on this account. I have 13, almost 1,400 followers. So first thing it'll tell you is simply your follower count by day. And that goes back a month, I think, yeah. And then it's beginning to spell out for you some audience interests. So what, of the people who do follow you, what are some other things that they care about? So I'll just tell you, when you start looking at this, you're going to see these always at the top for some reason. I don't know if that means that that's really what people are searching for, or if something like Beyonce having 48 million followers and movie stars having all these millions and millions of followers, if that skews it. I don't know, but I always see these at the top, so I try to just skip those and see what is interesting down here that my audience care about. Well, this sticks out like a sore thumb: health, mind, and body. So I know that I'm hitting on the right themes when I'm talking to my audience. I'm obviously not going to, as a business handle for the Juice Plus Helper soundboard account, I'm not going to be talking about pop and movie news through that. It's not the avenue for that kind of information, but I certainly want to be doing this and business news when I'm thinking about Juice Plus franchise owners who are, of course, interested in growing their own business. And then we have another one down here, business and finance, so I can think about that. The gender of your audience, overwhelmingly female for this particular account. So I know that I need to be gearing things that way. I need to be talking about healthy pregnancies and busy moms and how to feed your family on the go in a healthy way, things like that. Income, I truthfully don't know how in the world they get this information. I guess it's based on people's spending habits, but most people don't buy through Twitter, although you can. They try hard. And then married status, education level. But this is also, I think, kind of interesting because I know that Juice Plus people sometimes are, Juice Plus is an additional work that they've got set for themselves, and then sometimes it's the full time. So this is kind of interesting to look at. But then I also really have gotten a lot of information out of this, consumer buying styles. Okay, so what are people talking about that they're interested in purchasing out of my audience? So premium brands, this flat out says people who shop premium and high-end brands across the grocery store. Okay, so here we have, clearly, we all know it's more expensive to eat healthy and to eat organic. So my audience is extremely interested in that. Fresh and healthy, perfect. Fresh produce, fresh meats. Quick and easy, people who choose heat and eat convenience. Well, from my perspective as somebody who talks to Juice Plus people every day, I know that does not mean fast food. That means quick and easy and healthy options. So how do I speak to that audience? Cooking at home and grilling. Ethnic explorers, which has to do with international foods. And then we've got a little bit here about natural living, weight conscious, gluten-free. Okay, some overwhelming interests of my audience and the way that they purchase, at least according to Twitter, is fresh, healthy, organic, don't care if it's expensive, cooking at home, grilling at home, international foods, incredible data set there that I can draw from to speak to what my audience cares about. When you click around in these tabs, you're going to get a little bit more information. They're just going to break it out for you. Sometimes it's interesting to see how many people are on mobile, versus desktop. This obviously is not that important, although it is interesting to see that 17% of my audience is, no, not 17%, 17 plus 17 plus 10. So over 30% of my audience is from the UK. That's very interesting to note. So there's other information you can get here. It just kind of explodes what we looked at in a little bit more depth. Things that people buy. I don't really know why I would need information about auto buyers. So you just never know what you're going to find in here, but there is good stuff. There's more to be done here if you're interested in setting up an e-commerce store, but my understanding Juice Plus policy is that is against the rules. You got to go through a person to buy. Okay, so that's the analytics platform and how to access it and hopefully how to get some good information out of it. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is a lesser known feature of Twitter which makes life on the platform a lot easier, and they are lists. A list is something that you can create, and what a list does is it allows you to arrange what you care about to engage with by topic. Because when you start following a lot of people and you just go home, it's real, you begin to get this mass of information. And unlike Facebook, that is designed to put what you're most interested in at the top of your feed, Twitter is all, unless you're seeing a sponsored post that's paying to be at the top, and they'll offer you a few suggestions. Otherwise, it's all just chronological order. So when you're scrolling, if you follow the news and you follow some local businesses and you follow your friends and you follow the bands that you like and you follow your kid's soccer coach, all that stuff is this mishmash jumble of information, and it's hard to deal with. So the purpose of a list is to categorize the accounts and you don't even have to follow an account to put them in a list, but follow things that you're interested in, organize things that you're interested in by topic. And this will make your life easier. My personal Twitter handle, I have I have lists of all the bands that I care about so that I know what tour dates are coming up. I have my local news anchors. The local news is such a joke, but the anchors still are talking about the things that I care about, so I don't have to sit through half an hour of it's bad. But I know what's happening with the water system in my town because I'm following local anchors, okay? And then sports teams, and then healthy living stuff. So I have different lists set up. So when I want to know about a specific thing, I don't have to sift through my home feed and just scroll and scroll and scroll, or I don't have to go to one person's account to learn something and I may miss something else related to the topic. So when you want to make a list and put other people in it, when you go home to your own profile, okay, lists is one of the things at the top here. So let's go and create a list first. All right, where's that button? Here we go, down here. So create a list. A list is a curated group of Twitter users. So you can create a new list. You can name it whatever you want. And if you want to describe it, and then you can make it public or private. So this is a really interesting tool here, especially if you want to give something to your team. All right. If you want to give something to your team, let's say you're an NMD in Dallas, and you want to make a list of area gyms, health food stores, influencers, people that set up 5Ks, CrossFit, local parks, local farmers markets. You can set up a public list And then all you have to do is share the name of it with your team, and they can follow that same list. So you're all kind of seeing what's going on in the community. If you want to make a private list, of course, if you have very specific, political views or something like that, and you don't want that out there, and you just want to have that as a resource for yourself, then make it private. Okay, so to create that, it's pretty simple. But once you do, I've already made a test list, so let's do test 2. Once you do, you save it, and then you can start adding people to it. Okay, so you can find them by name, or if you are out there on Twitter and you see something that interests you, all right, you can add that person to a list. And you want to go here and go to your gear wheel and then add or remove from list. So you can put all these different accounts onto a list. Now remember, you don't have to follow them. This particular person I was already following, and that's why she popped up in my home feed, but you don't have to follow somebody to put them in a list. Now this, again, as a consumer of Twitter, will make your life a lot easier. But what you probably don't realize, and most people don't, is that you have been put on lists by other people, especially if Soundboard's been tweeting for you for a long time. So when you check your notifications tab, and here's a perfect example, 3 hours ago, Healthy Recipes added me to their list, Health Recipes for You / Healthy Recipes. So Healthy Recipes for You does follow us, follow this account. But again, you don't have to. So they've added this to a list. This is not like a Facebook group where you have to ask permission. Okay, they've just done it because they want to know what I have to say about healthy food and healthy recipes. Okay, this is a big compliment. So what you can do when you want to figure out if you are a member of a list, because Twitter's not real great about telling you that unless you stay on top of your notifications, is there's 2 ways to do it. One is, again, by just going to your home. And we're going to visit our profile. And we're going to go to lists. And we're going to click member of. But not everybody, I have learned, has this button. So there's a workaround for this. The workaround is this. Simply type in http blah, 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 twitter.com / your Twitter handle / memberships. Okay, so twitter.com / whatever your Twitter handle is / memberships. And this will bring up the list of all of the lists that you have been put in by other people. This is an incredible touch point because, again, whether or not they follow you, they definitely care about what you have to say. So we are now a member of Healthy Recipes by Healthy Recipes. All right, and this, you can directly communicate with the moderator of this list and say, thanks for adding me, love to talk about whatever. This person is interested in drink more water, but they're a company, Bronte Water Coolers. How can we get creative about a partnership there? People who love whole food. By Sandy. We want to know what Sandy thinks about whole food. Jeffrey cares about healthy something. So you can just keep going and going and going and see all these lists that you have been made a member of. Okay, some of these obviously are huge lists. Some of them are smaller lists. But the point is that you have probably been put in a list that you're not aware of. And I find this a lot with especially people who have been on Soundboard for a while and who haven't necessarily been paying super close attention to their own Twitter handles and their own notifications. And this is something that can just get past you and without you realizing it and without this person following you. So very, very powerful way to think of this almost, I guess the parallel is a Facebook group. But it's a Facebook group that you've been invited to and you're contributing to on a regular basis, and you may not even know it. So, get in there, figure out who else is in the list, because all you have to do is click on the title and you're seeing the list. So you can subscribe to it. You can click on list members, and you can follow them, engage with them. I mean, this is a really rich connection point and warm market for exploring the wild west of Twitter. Who subscribes to the list, who's interested in the same kind of topics. So leverage that. Kick the tires on some Twitter lists this week. Make it easier for you to consume on the platform. And then go see who's listening to you and you don't even know. So we're finishing a minute short, or a few minutes short, but more time in your day is probably better. So again, here's how to find us. Next week is going to be all about Buffer, Hootsuite, scheduling, maybe a little bit of Instagram. And unless people have major questions, I think next week we'll probably close out the series. And then the following week, I will probably start over and just run the same 6 classes through, because more and more people are learning about this. So if you missed something, you can either join us in the future or hop on the Healthy Living Soundboard Facebook page and see past recordings of what you missed. And then you will be a social media super rock star. Okay, no questions coming through? Anybody? Okay, happy day after Valentine's. I hope you don't have a sugar hangover. I don't. I choose healthy living. Sorry, that was dumb. All right, bye-bye.